It's important to properly dispose of unwanted medication or sharps. MedProject offers free and convenient disposal options near you. To learn more, call 844-MedProject or visit medproject.org.
Anthem Blue Cross and Common Threads are helping schools across the country learn about healthier food preparation. And here in LA, they're joined by the Sparks and will provide education, recipes, and knowledge to students and families about healthier options. Learn more at anthem.com/ca/sparks. Anthem Blue Cross is the trade name of Blue Cross of California.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis, a podcast dedicated to the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm getting a little bit of a late start tonight. Sorry about that. My son burned his leg on a Harley motorcycle.
Ouch.
A few days ago. And his dad's a doctor and looked at it and thought it was okay for right now. But we just went today to get it checked out. He's all good. It looks gnarly.
It looks painful.
Oh, yeah. But I just had some mom stuff. You've been busy during the day with your family, so we just got a late start. But we always say there's no way we're going to have enough to do a podcast. And, and we said that about 3 hours ago, and here we are, probably going to go a while tonight.
Yep.
Well, that's okay. So we're just going to get started. We got an email last night from somebody who knows the Daybell family, and she gave us a little bit more insight as to her take on the call between Lori and Chad the day the property was being searched. And so what she was telling me was that she said that the Daybell men kind of have a specific way of talking. So with Chad, it's kind of monotone and sort of a flat affect.
Yes.
And I found it really hard to understand him, even though the audio situation wasn't the best. But, you know, it was just very hard to understand him. So she actually went back and answered one question that we had about a little snippet that we couldn't understand. So I'm just going to read to you what she said. She believes was said at this point, which is very important. So Lori asked Chad, are they seizing stuff again? And Chad says, they're searching. Lori says, And then Chad, this is where we weren't sure. There's a search warrant, and so a warrant to take evidence with the kids is what she thinks that he has said.
Yeah.
And so we're really grateful. We're not going to give out any names, but we're really grateful for her clearing that up for us. It kind of makes sense that he would say that. It's a warrant to take evidence with the kids. We knew we had the with the kids part.
Yes.
But it was kind of just mumbled. So according to her, there's a search warrant, and so a warrant to take evidence with the kids. Is it that he was trying to say, take evidence with the kids? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was almost like the conversation was in code anyways.
Yeah, definitely. So we're really grateful. If you guys ever have any inside information, we keep our sources very quiet. We don't rat you out. And, we like we say too, we just always try to make sure something's a fact.
Yeah.
Before we say it. And so we've had some questions on Twitter and Facebook, and we just thought we would sort of run down a few of those right now before we get started with the bulk of our podcast, which is going to be going back to Rexburg in August through the end of August through the end of November.
Yep, like a review.
Yeah. So one question that we got on Twitter, why is Pryor so obsessed with the size of the pet cemetery and the potential raccoon burial?
Yeah, so our thoughts on that are he's asking him the size of it because maybe he's thinking that there is a raccoon buried there somewhere and that they didn't search it well enough, because we know the text came in that he shot and buried a raccoon. So he's trying to say, okay, you didn't search the whole area, so how do you know there's not a raccoon buried there? That you only searched this, minor area.
Right.
And I mean, if you listen to Daniel's testimony, Detective Daniels, I think that was his name on it.
Yeah, he was with the FBI.
Yeah. If you listen to his testimony on the stand, he says that, first of all, that the first place they went was the fire pit, and then they had the other hits that they went to later, and it was obvious by the ground that it had been disturbed. So I would think that the FBI would have, if there was more ground that would have been disturbed, they would have searched there. So
yeah, and if you remember in the hearing, I believe he was saying it was like I forget the number value, but it was like a 10 by 10 area. And Pryor says his famous little tagline, "Would you be surprised?"
Yeah.
To know that it was 20 by 20 or whatever the measurements were. He doubled it.
Yeah.
And so I think what he's doing here is he is just trying to set up maybe part of that defense, which is, hey, the FBI didn't look all in the pet cemetery and there's a raccoon in there somewhere.
Yeah. And we talked about it. Could there possibly be a way that science could date when an animal was buried? I mean, I think so. I would think. If anybody knows that for sure. But I would think, I don't know. It'd be something to look into. But I don't know. He's reaching.
Yeah. I mean, look, even if they go, unearth a raccoon that's been shot, I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that these kids were buried on his property, and people that I know don't follow the case. Pretty much all I have to say is they found the kids buried on his property, and everybody's like, "Oh, wow, yeah, they're going down." So it's just one of those things with. I think Pryor just has to sort of put doubt in wherever he can, because clearly the facts are stacked up against Chad and Lori at this point. But, hey, you throw a lot of stuff against the wall and see if anything sticks.
Exactly. So the other thing that went along with that was they were asking the lack of ash, why he was questioning that. And we just think that he's going to try to say that Tylee wasn't burned there.
Yeah, he said something about there wasn't any ash in the grass or the area around the fire pit. And, that's the only thing we could think about where he was going with that, is possibly to say she wasn't burned there. I think that's a lost cause. Where else are you going to burn remains in Rexburg without being noticeable unless it's on your property?
Yeah.
You can't do it in the middle of the townhomes.
Yeah. I honestly, I do not know.
And then on the last podcast, I think some people got confused. We were just saying that we were talking about the duct tape. And I was saying that I was watching an episode of Forensic Files where they had figured out the killer was left-handed because of the way the duct tape was wrapped. And we just had mentioned, we wondered if one of the three were left-handed. We think they're all right-handed. We weren't really insinuating that there was anything there. I was just saying that that's sort of how detailed they can get in forensics.
Yeah, they can tell if the killer was right-handed or left-handed. Yeah.
Right.
By the way it's wrapped. Yep.
And somebody said, they would like to know what Lori's mom and sister are thinking now after they did the interview saying the kids were in a bunker and they're safe. It's kind of one of the $1 million questions.
Yeah, Summer released that statement after the bodies were found or whatever, and said she was wrong. Mm-hmm. And we haven't heard anything from any of them since then. We
haven't heard anything really from that whole side of the family, including Melanie Pulaski. But there's been some movement in their custody case. It's a little hard to figure out what's going on, though, because unless we have, it's just a little summary. And so there was something about contempt, and I'm just not a lawyer, so I can't really figure out what they're saying here. It looks like maybe she wants some clarification on some things. We're still trying to find out.
Yeah. That case is so confusing.
Yeah. And so that's kind of all with the questions for right now. Some people had asked that we go through and really cover Detective Daniels' testimony. And if you're kind of a newer listener for us, all of our podcasts have little descriptions underneath the episode. And we did go through a lot of his testimony. I believe it was day one of the preliminary hearing. So we may go back later and do a little bit more in depth with the testimony of each person. But for now, we kind of think we covered most of the important parts. And that's out there, and we try not to be too repetitive. Although sometimes I'll listen back and say, wait, I said that last episode.
Yeah.
But my memory stinks.
Oh,
so.
her memory's horrible. She'll say, hey, we need to talk about this. And I'm like, oh, we already did.
Yeah, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
I'm going to hate to see myself at like 80.
Yeah.
So then just some little random things that have popped up in my mind before we get to these dates. And I was reading through some stuff about the case the other day, and I came across that statement from Chad's lawyer before the kids were found. I think this maybe was after Lori was arrested, maybe, or maybe not. I'll have to check. But it says, Chad Daybell is a loving husband and has the support of his children in this matter. Lori Daybell is a devoted mother and resents assertions to the contrary. We look forward to addressing the allegations once they have moved beyond speculation and rumor, the couple added in the statement. It's so weird to hear that now.
Yeah.
I mean, these people put out a statement saying that she's a devoted mother. He's a loving husband. It's just kind of sickening to read right now.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm ready for them to address the allegations because we've moved beyond speculation and rumor, and we have bodies.
Exactly.
And we have other stuff. So I wonder when they're going to come out and address that now that it's moved beyond that.
Yeah. Liar.
Yeah. And the other thing we were talking about was, and we both watched Court TV last night where they were talking about being sealed in the temple. And who was sealed in the temple?
So Chad and Tammy were sealed in the temple.
Okay.
And what they were saying was that it is a huge deal. Like, it takes years if you're going to get divorced and you're sealed in the temple. It's way harder to do that, to get a divorce if you're sealed in the temple than if you're not.
Yeah, and I think that just sort of speaks to motive.
Oh, yeah.
For at least Tammy's death. And then, I didn't know this, but in LDS faith, adultery is about as bad as murder.
Yeah.
Boy, they double whammied this.
Yeah, they're way off the mark.
Yeah. So just these are random thoughts, and this is kind of how my brain works. My synapses fire everywhere. So you're like, she's jumping around. This is really how I am, guys. One thing I was thinking about Fruit Loop was Lori telling everybody that Tylee was going to BYU. Now, we know kids that are leaving for college, or we're supposed to leave for college this August. You know what's odd to me is that she never told anybody, and we know it's a lie. But it goes to show you how Lori just would throw anything out there. You would think Tylee would have told Colby or maybe her other friends, hey, I'm going to BYU.
Yeah.
Because she had her GED.
Yeah. Yeah.
She never told anybody she was going to BYU.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I thought about and I looked up is insurance payouts. So when Tammy Daybell dies and Chad goes to cash out, I was curious how long it would take for that to be cashed out.
It's like 30 to 60 days, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you can get it in like a week or two, but it can go about 60 days at its length. But we know she died October 19th and they were looking for apartments or places to live November 8th. So we assume sometime between maybe that third week in October and the first week in November, he must have got that life insurance payout.
Yeah, and that was what, $430,000 or something?
Yeah, it was a lot. He was left with, I think, $132,000 when she was arrested.
Yeah, how do you blow that much money?
Well, if you think about it, you're looking at, she's had 5 attorneys since she was arrested in Hawaii. Now, you're talking about 5 different retainer fees. And I'm sure with like how big this case was in the media, even when she got arrested in February, I would assume those retainers were pretty high. And so how it works with a lawyer is you pay that retainer and then they work off of that retainer. And once that is exhausted, then you start paying whether you've agreed on a figure or you pay hourly or whatever. But she had the initial guy in Hawaii. He was so nervous and confused and just rambled on.
Oh, I remember that guy.
Oh, man. Like
she looked at him like...
Oh, she gave him the like pew pew eyes. It's like she's shooting lasers out.
Yes.
And what it was when the judge said it was going to be, at that point, it was what, $5 million?
$5 million bail, yeah.
And he's so nervous. Like the side of his neck looks like he was sunburned, but it wasn't there when he started. So he just the nerves, like he's lobster like.
Yeah.
And then so the lady says it's $5 million, he turns to his assistant and he's laughing. And then he turns and looks at Lori and like her eyes do this funky, crazy look. I'm going to find that clip and put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
It is, because I would go back and rewind it and I was like, whoa, those crazy eyes came out of nowhere.
Yes.
It was, it was creepy. So I think 5 attorneys, you've got a residence in Hawaii, and Hawaii is not cheap.
No.
I mean,
I'm not going to lie. A friend of mine told me that a gallon of orange juice was like $17.
shoot.
I can't imagine what an attorney cost.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have Hawaii bills. You have Rexburg bills. Chad still has a home there. He's got to keep that up. And then at the same time, I'm sure Chad had him a lawyer on the side too. So, in today's world, $430,000 is not a ton.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Money.
True.
And
yeah. And they rented that furniture because they had that Rent-A-Center truck come picked it up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. And then she got arrested and Chad had to move out. And
yeah.
the Rent-A-Center guy was back.
Yeah, he was helping load the stuff on the truck.
Yeah, he like shakes his hand and everything.
Yep.
And then speaking of Hawaii, I'm super curious to find out why Melanie and Lori went to Hawaii in October.
Yeah, that's a question there.
Mm-hmm.
Was it pre-wedding plans?
Yeah, and I mean that's just going to go right back to motive. But I'm curious to see, number one, were there any preparations made for that wedding? And this is before Tammy Daybell's dead.
Yeah.
So this also brings me to like another point. You guys know that Melanie Pulowski has to know more than what she has said in interviews and everywhere else. I don't think she's just this clueless participant. If you're going to Hawaii with your aunt by yourself and you know that like she's getting married, because at this point, Tammy's a couple of weeks away from dying, a week or two?
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like Melanie knows way too much.
Yeah, and the kids are already dead.
Yeah, at that point, the kids are dead. She's going out to Hawaii with her niece.
And yet she still hasn't seen them.
Mm-mm. And also, speaking of Hawaii, was the minister... I want to know when that minister was first contacted.
Yeah, was it... Yeah, where was it? Was it back here, or did they talk to him then?
But I don't care where it was. If it was before Tammy Daybell died, and this is all things I think will come out in the trial.
Yep.
But... a lot of times people online will say, why haven't there been charges? What? If you just look through, we're going to go through from pretty much like August the 30th down to November 22nd. And you're going to see so much that these guys have to look through. And then if they look at one piece and it takes them in like 5 directions, they might be investigating this case when Jesus returns.
Yeah. Okay. You know how... and everybody does it when you're researching something, whether it's genealogical family history or this case. You go down a rabbit hole and you're digging, and then finally you hit China.
Right.
And you've been there like 8 hours and you're still sitting in the same chair. And when you get up, you can't move. Yeah.
It's funny with me because I go down rabbit holes and then I get distracted. So like I'll start reading about this case and before I know it, I'm on Amazon, looking for succulents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how my rabbit holes go.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to get into, the other thing. One thing I'm curious about, did Lori use any more of Charles's credit cards other than for the one with the ring, or did she use it like consistently from when he died to when all this came to be?
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyways. Okay. So we're going to start.
Hey, before you do this, something hit me the other day. or it was today actually, and I was sitting in this chair. So we were just digging, and it hit me that when Joseph Ryan died, they were in Hawaii. That's when Charles and her were living in Hawaii. And then when Alex died, she was gone to Hawaii.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but like, what if she's sending these guys like tainted macadamia nuts? I mean,
it could happen.
What if she's like sending some kind of a gift? Some kind of an edible gift.
It could happen.
That's got arsenic in it. I've always
Something.
thought. Look, Joe and Alex are too coincidental to be ruled natural. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. The whole thing, I mean, nobody's natural. None of these deaths are natural.
No.
No way.
Stinks to high heaven.
Yep. So you can get back to your dates now.
Oh, that's okay.
But I want to throw that in there.
All right. So we're going to start on August the 30th. And some other things happened before that, obviously. But we're just going to kind of start with Rexburg because we just thought there's been so much going on lately with the hearings and the waiving of the hearing and everything else going on that sometimes we sort of forget how we got where we are. And one thing I found going through these dates is just how they did so much damage in a couple of months. I mean, it's almost every other day.
Yeah.
Something's going on.
And what shocks me is this is a small amount of evidence and there's tons more evidence.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So on August the 30th of last year, Bailey, the service dog, JJ service dog, I tweeted out a picture of Bailey earlier this week. He was given back.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
No.
Because everything we had heard was that JJ had slept through the night with that dog for the first time in a very long time. And the picture, you see JJ's got his little, he's holding the leash and he looks happy. And it was said that Bailey was more Charles's idea and JJ didn't care for the dog. And
yeah,
what kid doesn't love a dog?
Yeah.
Especially, it looks like a teddy bear.
Exactly. But I mean Kay and Larry, they said that dog was his dog.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next day on the 31st, Tylee, Lori, JJ, and no, it was just them three at that point. They moved to Rexburg.
Yep.
So this is August the 31st.
Yep.
8 days later, Tylee is last seen.
Yep. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so Tylee just rolls into town and is pretty quickly killed. Although Lori would have everybody believe she's with friends or she's at BYU.
Yeah. So in between some of these dates, I'm going to throw in dates. So we're trying to stay in some kind of order, so it helps you guys keep it straight in your head, even though it's hard for us, anyways. So I'm going to throw in some dates that correspond with Blooms, which is the app from JJ's school that Lori kept accessing after they had moved and everything. So we're going to throw in some dates there to give you a little more info on that.
And this is actually one area that Fruit Loop and I disagree in.
Yes.
It doesn't happen very often. Usually we're pretty much on the same page, but we have completely different ideas.
Yep.
So as you guys may have heard, Lori was accessing the app for parents after JJ had died. But she had also accessed it when he started school there.
Yes.
So me and Fruit Loop were thinking, why would she be, after he's dead, why would she be accessing that? And what do you think?
Well, what this app does, it allows the teacher to contact the parent. They can put updates on there. They can sign up for field trips, volunteer work. And also the parents can message each other back and forth in there.
Okay.
So it's a communication thing. So I just think and these dates are going to correspond with important dates that happen that we're going to go through. So for me, it's almost like she's communicating with someone. I mean, JJ's deceased and she does get on there before he dies, but even after she's on there, so it's almost like she's communicating with somebody. That's my theory.
Yeah.
And what was yours?
Well, I've used these apps a lot, and they're really useful. I almost think that when she starts using them after JJ is deceased, I just kind of wonder if, because they really had to jet out of Rexburg, they left so fast after the welfare check. I think maybe that was her way of seeing if there was any chatter at the school about JJ being missing. That's kind of my theory, is just it was because Lori really didn't have anybody in Rexburg other than Chad. So she wouldn't have been able to call a friend or, maybe she looked on local news. It'll be interesting to see her pings and see if she did look up like Rexburg local news or whatever. But I just kind of think it was maybe a way to see if it, at least on the school's part, if they had started talking about the fact that the police had busted up, and maybe to see if the police had went to the school and the parents were talking about that. That's sort of my theory. So yeah, normally we think alike, but on this we differ a little bit.
Yeah, I think when you hear a little bit more of these dates corresponding, you may say, "Oh, wait, yeah."
You saying they're going to agree with you?
I am. I am.
All right. So September the 18th, and this is kind of something that stood out to me, is Kay is emailing Lori, and she's just asking to talk to JJ because she misses him, and Lori won't let her. So I got to thinking, if Lori were smart, and I fully believe they knew these kids were going to die and probably when. I thought it would have been smart for Lori, if I'm thinking like a criminal, to let Kay talk to JJ. And just that way you kind of put her on the back burner for a few weeks, a month or whatever. But I wonder if the reason Lori wouldn't let her is because maybe JJ would say something about Tylee. At this point, Tylee's dead. Yeah.
And we know, I remember Kay and Larry saying the last time they talked to him, it was rushed. And it was like somebody was telling him what to say. And then he just ran off. So it was like briefly, and then that was it. So, and that was prior to that, I think. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then on September the 19th, and this is a big question mark for us too, Chad flies to Mesa, Arizona. And there was a woman on that flight with him. And she had talked to him. And I think he gave some story that he was going to help out some family members. They were redoing their house or something.
Yeah. It was really odd. Because that's when Melanie Gibb and David come in.
That same day.
Yeah. And there was a conference, because remember, they went and they attended a conference or something there.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. That almost looks like an alibi or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Could be. And then so we go a few days later, which is the 23rd, and that is the date that we assume that JJ dies.
Yeah. So backing up just real quick, because we missed a couple of login dates here.
Put it in reverse for Luke.
Back it up. Back up, Terry. So first of all, it's very weird. Lori didn't withdraw JJ correctly. So she never did a formal withdrawal. And we've both worked with special needs kids, and they have IEPs, which is an individualized education plan. Mm-hmm. And what that does is it follows the kid from grade to grade, and it helps the teacher learn how to best help the student. And it may be like a kid needs to take a test orally, or it's just plans that adapt to each person individually that helps them learn the best.
And it also creates goals for the kid over the course of that school year.
Yep.
So from year to year, you can see what the goal is set at. And then at the end of the year, it gives you kind of a history. And they're tested several times a year as part of their IEP.
Yeah.
If you're a regular ed student, you don't have an IEP. For the most part, some kids do have IEPs because they may just struggle with reading, but they're fine and everything else. But for a child like JJ, the IEP pretty much lays out every bit of their educational plan because all areas are affected.
And it's very important.
It's super important. That is the legal document. And I was always so nervous to even hold an IEP because it is a legal mess if those things get messed up. And parents are very serious about IEPs. That is like the holy grail of schooling for a special needs kid is that IEP, because these are goals they need to meet. And then the next year, if they have a different teacher, it shows them essentially where they left off, how well they were doing in that. It can be behavior.
Yeah.
It can be academics. It could be transitions in between classes. It could be how they eat lunch. You know, it just depends on the severity of the kid and the goals that are needed to help them function.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to throw in what an IEP is.
Yeah, and it's a big deal. So the new school never requested the records from the old school, which is not normal.
No.
Those IEPs follow you everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big deal. So Lori accessed Bloom's on September 7th, and we know that's right before Tylee is killed.
It's the day before.
Yeah. So she accessed it there. And then you hadn't gotten to November yet, so we're good. That was the only one you missed.
Oh, okay.
See, I accused you, and it wasn't that bad.
See, you got to trust me.
Yeah.
Okay, so September 23rd is when JJ dies. The 24th, the very next day, she unenrolls him from Kennedy Elementary, which is the new school in Rexburg.
Yeah, and says she's going to homeschool him, right?
Mm-hmm. And then towards the end of the month in September, Chad told Julie Rowe that Tammy was going to die pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay, so then October 1st, this is the day that Lori goes and purchases the storage locker where we found the bikes and the personal blankets with all their pictures. And I think there was a jersey of Colby's in there. And they just dumped it off.
Yeah, it was personal stuff that you wouldn't normally get rid of or leave behind.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost probably burn myself up in a house fire to get those things for my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's precious stuff.
Yeah. And on that same day, Janice claims she talked to JJ.
Although my theory is maybe Alex did one of his little impersonations. I'm telling you, unless Grandma got confused and didn't know her dates.
Yeah.
Or she could be lying to cover Lori. We don't know.
Yeah.
But if she truly talked to who she thought was JJ and that's just not physically possible, I've always thought maybe Alex did a voice.
Because he did do impressions,
he was good.
Impersonations.
I mean, obviously he's an evil, crazy man.
Yeah.
If he had channeled the evilness into his comedy, he was actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
I watched some of his routine. I mean, it was crude because, you know, it wasn't funny about him joking about tasing Joe Ryan.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was kind of a natural at it.
Yeah.
But he also could do voices, which I also believe is how Charles's passcode got changed on his life insurance policy.
Could be.
All right. So October 1st, Janice talks to JJ. October the 2nd, Lori orders the rings.
Yeah. And keep in mind, everyone, Tammy's still alive.
Oh, gosh. Poor woman.
Yeah.
But the same day that she ordered the rings also is the day that we see Chad and Lori at that storage locker, and they're putting the Jeep tire and the back seat of that Jeep into the storage locker.
So they're clearing the back of the Jeep for some odd reason.
Right. And so, Fruit Loop, why don't you tell the people newer to the case why that's significant?
Well, also on October 2nd, the same day that they're seen putting the stuff in the locker, that's when Brandon Boudreaux is shot at.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you not think that there's a chance that Lori and Chad could be charged in Brandon's attempted murder?
I mean, you're seen taking something out of a Jeep that is used to possibly shoot and try to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Seems to me you knew why you were taking that seat and that tire off.
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to escape charges from that. I don't think it's going to lay solely on Melanie Pulowski's shoulders, that one.
No.
Just curious when she's going to get arrested. I say this every episode, but she's due to give birth soon. I think September, somewhere in there is her due date. If you're on your 5th kid, they just kind of slide out at that point. So you don't usually have that super long labor. You don't go over your due date. Usually you kind of go a few weeks early. I think we had maybe read a rumor that she may have had it, but I mean, it's still pretty early in August. Yeah. So if she was due at the beginning of September, totally possible. I just feel like, gosh, what a mess. I mean, this new baby, you got this dad who Melanie barely knows, and then probably she's going to end up and go to the pokey and have this newborn baby.
Yeah.
Who's going to be raised like knowing your mom was part of one of the biggest murder cases, of the decade.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
So then we jump back to October 3rd. And that's when Lori was looking at wedding dresses online.
Yeah. I think this came from Kay. She found that she was looking at wedding dresses and I think maybe like men's swim trunks.
Yeah. Yep. She was ordering stuff, sounds like, for Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. And then the next day on October the 4th, Chad has some vision from beyond the veil and tells Tammy he's been told by her ancestors to go see her mom and dad in Springfield, which is not, I think it's a few hours away?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So then we go to the 9th. So she only stayed at her parents' maybe like a 24-hour period. It was super short.
Yeah, it wasn't long at all.
Yeah. So then on the 9th.
Yeah, on October 9th, Tammy is shot at. She thinks it is a paintball gun, and she's shot at, so she calls the cops. The cops come and look, and they really didn't find anything. She thought it's a paintball gun. We think it was a gun with a silencer on it. So they didn't see anything. So then, on October 19th, that's when Tammy Daybell dies. And so that was 10 days later. She passes away in her sleep. And there's no autopsy or anything. So she's buried. They have a funeral in Springfield on October 22nd. And then there was one on October 23rd, and that was the one that Lori Vallow was at. And that's just crazy.
I think it's crazy that Lori went to her memorial in Rexburg. Now, there was no casket there because some of her friends in Rexburg were a little bit disturbed that it just seemed very rushed. But, man, I guess in hindsight, the people that might have seen her, I guess it's weird to think about that now.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's just...
It's gross.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean...
We'll just say it's gross.
You're planning to marry the lady's husband, and you've had an affair, you're planning to marry, and you show up to the funeral.
Oh, man. That's just, there are going to be so many Lifetime movies made about this case.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, it's going to be all over.
It's going to be like, what was that show, ER, that had like 35 seasons?
I know. Dateline's just going to be like Dateline, the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. I mean, they could do, week after week after week on this
2050.
Case. Yeah.
The next episode of the Lori and Chad Daybell case.
We're still learning facts.
Yeah.
From that case way back in 2020.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, the 23rd is the memorial that Lori was at. The 28th is when Alex and Chad go to the storage unit together and they move bikes into the unit, bicycles.
Yeah.
And then the 31st, who's coming?
Alex and Melanie pack her stuff to move to Rexburg.
Right. At that point, the private investigator that Brandon Boudreaux hired saw them moving this stuff. And I think he followed them a little way to Rexburg, didn't he?
Actually, he put a GPS tracker on the truck that they rented. And he actually went and ate. They stopped at a restaurant to eat. And he sat in the booth next to them.
That's right.
And got some information. And then... I think just followed with the GPS tracker and contacted his buddy in Rexburg who picked up the trail from there.
Yeah, and I have to say, if you guys can find videos of this private investigator talking, he is so smart.
Yeah, he is.
He really has a good take on this case, and he kind of had a front row seat to some pretty big moments.
Yeah, he did.
So now, around this time, Chad and Lori, so JJ, Tylee, and Tammy are dead at this point. And this is around the time I think that Chad and Lori were telling people that Tylee died before her dad did, and that Chad had told people Lori didn't have kids that were little.
Yeah, he had told his parents.
Or she was an empty nester is what he told.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that Lori met Chad's parents.
I mean, it sounds like it.
Yeah. So we jump to November. And at the very first of November is sort of when things start becoming really suspicious to law enforcement in Rexburg.
Yep.
Because the Jeep is taken in by the Rexburg police. And also, at the beginning of that month, what's his name? Hermosillo?
Hermosillo.
I will get this name right by the end of this trial. He starts watching Lori. And this is the very beginning of November. Now, remember, the welfare check wasn't until the 26th.
Yeah, and it was he was intermittently doing surveillance on her.
Yeah, and also on November 1st, the cops show up to Melanie Pulowski's house to ask her about Lori.
Yes.
And 4 days later is when Chad and Lori get married in Hawaii.
Yep.
So you're looking at, we started this August the 30th. So just... 2 months later, in 2 months, they move from Arizona to Rexburg. JJ's put in school. JJ's taken out. The kids are killed. Tammy's killed. 2 months later, Chad and Lori are playing the ukulele on the beach.
Yeah, all smiles.
In all white.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Before we go any further, Fruit Loop and I were doing a little research on this case, and Fruit Loop has a very distinct laugh when she gets really tickled about something. And so I'm sitting over here and I hear her over there just going crazy. And she finally figured out who Chad Daybell looks like. And look, we try not to be petty on the podcast because...
Try not to be petty. What?
Did I say we try to be petty?
Yes, you did.
It's been a long day, y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all know I'm going to say something stupid at least once every podcast.
It's 9:00 here, so...
Yeah, and
yeah.
I've been going since 6 this morning.
Yeah.
So you figure, so we try not to be petty. We try to keep it real, professional, and all that stuff. But, I mean, in real life, we're really petty. You figured out who Chad looks like.
I did. And it's in one of his, it's in a lot of pictures of him, like when he's in his prison garb. But he looks just like Bill Murray off Caddyshack.
It's the mouth going down.
Yes.
We're going to tweet out a side-by-side comparison. And I thought I was going to have to call 911 because Fruit Loop couldn't breathe.
Yeah,
so
it was very funny.
All of a sudden, Fruit Loop puts 2 and 2 together and the light bulb goes bing.
Yeah.
And you're just over there laughing. And I go over and I start laughing. And we're going to post it on Twitter.
Yeah, I've got to fix that. It is funny.
It is hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, November 5th, Chad and Lori married. On the 12th, that's when Melanie Pulowski goes to her in-laws' house and demands to see her kids. And then 2 days later, she does it again, and then she gets arrested.
Yeah, and just remember that she left and didn't show up for her divorce hearing, and Brandon got custody of the kids.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
So Alex bails her out.
Yep.
And then kind of around this time is when Lori and Alex come back from Hawaii to Rexburg.
Yeah. And we've discussed this, and it's just so odd. They were going to come back, and then not too many days later or weeks or whatever, they're going to head back to Hawaii.
But here's the thing. So the cops go to Melanie Pulowski's apartment on November the 1st. And ask about Lori. Now, remember, she had just moved there the night before.
Yeah.
So she's very fresh into town, and the cops are already knocking like the first day she's there. Why would Lori and Chad both come back to Rexburg if she knows at this point the Jeep's been taken and the cops are asking about her?
Yeah.
I kind of think maybe they were there to clean up some stuff.
Could be.
I don't know. I mean, I just can't I don't know why they would walk into that hornet's nest if they really kind of want to avoid the cops.
Yeah.
But that kind of raises a little bit of a flag with me.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yep.
So there's a few not pings, but so Lori logs into the app for JJ School on November 21st. So it still doesn't make sense to me. But
well, I mean, it's 2 months. JJ at this point has been deceased for 2 months, and she's logging in to the app.
Yeah.
So either she's talking to somebody like you think, or she's starting to see, well, that they've taken the Jeep. They've asked Melanie where I am. I just thought, that kind of is my theory. Like I had said, is that she was just seeing if there was any kind of rumblings.
Yeah. And we know she was hiding, or she said she was hiding.
Yeah.
So everybody, she knows they know where she's living now.
Right.
Her neighbor, remember her neighbor Seth, he got questioned.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, so we haven't got to the welfare check yet. We're almost there. And then November the 19th, Melanie's divorce with Brandon is finalized.
Yep.
And then the 24th, Lori and Chad go back to the storage unit and they leave really personal stuff. They leave, I think a box of stuff at Tylee's, I believe, that was,
it was like a Home Depot box.
Yeah. Mementos of hers.
Yep.
And then, November 25th, what happens there?
So Kay, finally, she figures out Charles' email password and stuff and notices the ring purchases and finds Lori's address through Amazon.
Right. And then that same day, Gilbert Police calls Rexburg and says, hey, we need you to do a welfare check. But I didn't know this until recently. Tylee was not part of the welfare check initially.
Yeah, because, yeah.
And the cop that called in the welfare check, I believe, is the same cop that drove all of them home after Charles was shot. And he talked about how odd that ride back was.
Yeah.
He talked about how it was like nothing had happened. He said it was the oddest thing. So he remembered Tylee, but they thought she was 16, 17. So initially the welfare check was only for JJ.
Yep.
And then they start to realize, well, JJ has a sister. And the private detective's like, well, we haven't seen her.
Yeah.
They haven't seen her when they've been watching her or nothing.
Yeah, because you think they've been doing surveillance on and off
right.
the whole month of November.
Yeah. And so November the 26th, as we know, is the big welfare check. That's when we get the body cam footage of Lori. All those strange interactions of my brother's friend, Chad.
Yep.
Oh, and the cop's like, Daybell, isn't he an author?
Yeah, that was so awkward.
And then...
Doesn't he write books?
Doesn't he have like a couple of daughters? And she's like, oh yeah, he has a bunch of kids.
I just wonder if they did that on purpose.
I mean, look, the cops are going to maybe try to get you roped in. I don't know if they would have been able to verify at that point that they were, I don't know if there would have been any suspicion they were married. Because they got married in Hawaii. It wasn't like it happened in Rexburg where people knew.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably wasn't long after, but I mean, obviously looking back now, you just see the amount of lies just right out of the gate. They're hiding everything because they've killed people. And then Chad says he doesn't even know her cell phone number.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm going to tell you what though. I haven't memorized a cell phone number since cell phones came out. So that was one of those things that like, I can't even tell you my mom's cell phone number. If I lose my phone and need to recall her number, it's going to be hopeless.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So that one
but
just never
you could
bothered
still, if you needed to give your mom's number to somebody, you could look it up in your phone.
But what if I didn't have my phone?
He had his phone.
Oh, I know. It's just a lie. But they acted like they barely knew each other, but they were, a couple of weeks earlier in Kauai getting married. Third time she'd been married in Kauai.
Playing the ukulele.
Oh my gosh. And those little white outfits and, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Yep.
And then on the 26th welfare check, the next day, Uncle Alex moves from Rexburg back to Arizona. The same day, they go to Colby's house. And then the same day, Rexburg police contacts the FBI for help.
Yeah.
So you can see, guys, I mean, there's so much.
Yeah. And that's when Colby calls his mom and is like, why are the cops coming here asking me where the kids are?
Yeah, and she's like, no big deal. I'll
I'll
take care
handle
of
it. I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's bolting.
Yeah.
So I'm picking up kind of where you left off there with the login stuff.
Okay.
Because there are more logins here. So we know in December 6th, first of all, Lori and them fly out to Hawaii on December 1st. So they fly out of LAX. We don't know where they were from that date to when they land in Hawaii, but we know they flew out of LAX. So December 6th is when Melanie Gibb tells the cops that Lori and Chad had called her asking her to lie. On that same day, law enforcement serves a search warrant at Life Academy. And that's where we're thinking these, they're getting school records from there, but they're also getting the app stuff from the Blooms app, checking all that out. So
was the Blooms app, the Life Academy was in Arizona.
Yes.
And then Kennedy is in Rexburg.
Yes.
So they served a search warrant on the school in Arizona? I didn't know that.
Yes. They served it at Life Academy.
Learn something new every day.
There you go. And I think it had to do with probably the attendance, because that came up in the preliminary the other day.
Right.
So law enforcement serves that search warrant on December 6th. December 8th is when Melanie Gibb calls Lori and Chad. Okay. And we know that was heard in court. December 9th, Lori logs back into the app.
It's just so weird.
It is so weird. The school says they didn't know anything. They didn't know Lori was logging into the app until February.
Wow.
December 20th, law enforcement officially announces its investigation into the kids and Tammy Daybell. That's when they issued the press release that they think that they were connected.
That's when I picked the case up.
Yes.
Yep.
December 20th, Lori logs into the app again on that same day. She doesn't. So January 7th is when Larry and Kay go on and announce the reward for the kids. January 8th, Lori logs back into the app the next day. January 30th, we know is the date where Lori's supposed to produce the kids in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we know she didn't, but January 31st, Lori logs back into the app. So the day after she's supposed to produce the kids, she logs back into the app. And then February 4th, she logs back into the app. And that's the same day that the access was cut off.
Yeah. She's up to shenanigans. I mean, at this point, JJ's been dead for months.
Yeah.
Why do you need to look in February onto his school schedule?
Yeah. And you're in Hawaii.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's on a fact-finding mission or anything that could let her know maybe what's being said.
Yeah. And an interesting point here is February 2nd was when Colby did some interviews. February 3rd, Cheryl Wheeler did some interviews. So then Lori logs back in on February 4th to check the app again. And then that's when the school finds out and they cut it off.
Wow. Man, that's creepy. I mean, and I think too, I had read that she was actually accessing this stuff on JJ's iPad.
Yeah.
Because it had his, on the back of the iPad, you can have engraving done.
Yep.
I think it had his name on it.
Yep. Because he had his own iPad.
And don't forget, she had Tylee's cell phone and her benefits card, which is just a cash card from the government every month with benefits. Probably JJ's too. I don't know if they ever said that, but JJ would have had his own card as well. Well, sometimes you can do direct deposit though. For like survivor benefits. But maybe Tylee's age, she was allowed to maybe use some of that money for herself.
Yeah. And you had their birth certificates and whatever else.
Yeah. It's just a tangled web. And so for me, I always tell Fruit Loop, if I watch, and I'll stop and watch anytime anything about this case is on, and there are a lot of really good who's who and what's happened as up until now. And it's like we get so caught up in the little tiny details that we're afraid are going to cause a mistrial. But if you sit and watch these shows, it's just so insane to watch the amount. And this is just literally a sliver of evidence. All this stuff is teeny tiny compared to what they have.
Yeah.
And it's crazy just to, when you watch it from beginning to end, how much was going on. And I always tell Fruit Loop, we got to ease people's minds that they're not going to walk out of that jail.
No.
This is only August to November, and this is only what we know.
Yeah.
There's so much in between, and cell phone pings and emails and social media communication. It's just, and I think this is a lot of why this has taken so long, because you have to understand Rexburg is working with all these other agencies on what they're finding and how does it tie into our case. And here's a piece for your case. And I see why it's taken forever.
Oh, most definitely.
I think, we've talked about, I think Chad or Lori has flipped, if not both at this point. And so I'm really just interested to hear how they're going to turn on each other when they were so fluid for so long. It's probably going to be laughable. But yeah, I mean, so we just kind of thought we would start from the beginning with dates. And then the next podcast, we're going to kind of do some more dates and talk about some more stuff. But, we've just been so deep in this case lately with testimony and all that, we kind of forget how it all came to be.
Yeah.
And how Rexburg, was sort of the starting point for disaster.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about Alex and Lori's relationship.
Yeah.
They're 5 years apart. And we have older brothers.
Yes.
So mine's 6 years apart.
Mine's 5.
Okay, so you're 5. My brother's 6 years older than me. So we look back, because some of you asked, could you dig a little bit deeper into their earlier years in their life or whatever. And just between them, in looking at Lori's second divorce, which was Colby's dad, I mean, he didn't show up anywhere. Like Alex didn't show up anywhere. Her dad did. So
yeah,
I mean, that's a little bit odd. I mean, he could have been at school or something maybe, because he did really well in school. He went to BYU.
You said he had a really high grade point average.
Yeah, from the records I saw, he had like a 3.8 grade point average. So he's smart.
In some ways.
I was going to say, not smart enough to know the difference between, good and evil. But,
right.
But yeah, so then he comes in the picture and kind of, she states in that body cam footage that he's her protector.
Yeah.
So he does tase Joseph Ryan, but it's my opinion that she put things into his head about Joe, because he called Joe a pedophile, and that was never proven. And I think the same thing with Charles. She put lies into Alex's head about Charles.
Yeah.
And convinced him that he was a bad guy.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's kind of what we dug up a little bit on that.
It's kind of weird, though. I mean, if you think about it, my brother and I are 5 years apart, so the same as Lori and Alex. And, I mean, growing up, he always was, like, really defensive for me, but we didn't hang out much because, I remember I was in kindergarten and he was in 5th grade. And that was the only year we ever were in the same school. And so 5 years is a lot in childhood as far as the age gap. I have kids that are, let's see, my 2 daughters, my oldest and my youngest are 5 years apart, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's a huge difference. I have a 15-year-old and I have a 9-year-old. I'm sorry, she just turned 9. I'm just sitting here.
I've seen smoke coming up.
So it was like 6 years.
Yeah.
They're actually 6 years. But it's really hard, for them to find a common ground. I mean, and they try to work with each other. But you see what goes on around here.
Yeah.
She's definitely really mature. Sarah Rose is just wild as a buck and funny. And, so they're just in different spots. I wonder how they were as kids. Was it kind of when she was born, that was his pet? And they were always super close and he was always really protective of her? Or is it something that kind of came along in early adulthood?
Yeah. When she needed protecting, supposedly.
Or says she did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would be really interested to learn the dynamics of their early childhood relationship. their relationship is very odd. Everybody that I've talked to about the case will say it's just weird.
Yeah.
And I've seen things alleged, like, was there more there? Was it, I don't want to go there because it's really gross and we have no proof. But when somebody is willing to commit murder for their sibling, I love you, Fruit, but like, you're like my sister. I'm not killing anybody for you.
No, I don't look good in stripes.
I would not thrive in prison. I've seen Orange is the New Black. And I wouldn't thrive.
I haven't seen that, but I don't want to go.
No, mama.
Don't want to go.
I don't want to go.
No.
We would never do good in jail. We would, yeah. I think I'd just go in a corner and curl up.
I'm good.
Yeah, no, but hey, Lori's been in since February.
Yeah, it's getting to her too. It's weighing on her.
Oh yeah, she's looking a little ragged. But yeah, she's an old pro now.
Yeah.
Chad too. He's been in since June. He's almost he's 3 months in.
Yeah, they have it easy right now though. So.
Oh yeah, when they go to prison, it's going to be much different. They're in these tiny, tiny little jails. Yeah. So when they go to the big house and they're in there with people that have done I don't know that we could even say the equivalent. I mean, they've killed so many people, obviously.
Yeah.
But hey, when you kill kids and you go to prison, you're not very popular.
Nope.
So they better enjoy their little cushy small town county jail right now because the big house is waiting.
Exactly.
And they're going to be in Gen Pop, and it's not going to be 8 to a pod. It's going to be like 100 to a pod.
Yeah.
So.
But we are so thankful for your questions, reaching out. We try to respond. Sometimes we get lost and don't. We've had a lot of questions.
A lot. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. And I don't know how you're listening to this or if you're on YouTube or whatever, but hit the subscribe and the little bell so you know when we post a new video.
And we were talking earlier about maybe taking YouTube sort of to the next level and doing some videos where we focus on one person and we tell everything we have and how they tie in. And then, just do some videos like that are informative. A lot of people are coming to this case brand new.
Yeah.
And so sometimes our podcast can be sort of way far away from what they know just on a basic level. I know my aunt today just watched the first Dateline episode and I was like, you got a long way to go, girl.
Yeah.
Ooh, buckle up.
Yeah, you ain't kindergarten. We already at master level PhD. Yeah.
She's a little young grasshopper.
Yeah. A young Padawan.
But obviously we love talking about the case and just any kind of questions that we read them. Sometimes if they're if like my daughter comes in and needs something, like I'll say, I'll respond. And then hey, you guys already know, I forget.
Yeah.
But we really do try to respond. It's mostly me on Twitter, Gigi on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't
Fruit Loop doesn't
do
tweet.
Twitter.
And a big thank you, everybody, for wishing my grandmother a happy 86th birthday yesterday. That really made her day.
Yeah, she loved it.
She follows the case. She listens to the podcast, and she goes on Facebook and goes to our page and everything. And she is the best woman ever.
She is.
She is so cool and hip and turned 86, and I think she's healthier than all of us. And your messages really just brightened her day. So thank you. And I think as we go on with this podcast, you're going to learn a lot about our families and that sort of thing. And so thank you so much for being sweet to her.
Yep, that was cool.
But I think that's kind of all we have for today. We'll be back in a few days with some more and keep those questions coming. And we do take notes and try to answer stuff. We still have a whole list of questions we didn't get to today.
Yep.
But they're coming. And follow us on Twitter at Pretty Lies Alibi. We're on Facebook, Pretty Lies and Alibis, Instagram, Pretty Lies and Alibis, and now YouTube, Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let me just say alibis.
Yeah.
Like Fruit Loop said, hit that subscribe button. We've had a lot of people subscribe in the last week.
Yeah.
And it's really just a good way for you guys to stay on top of this with us. And is that all you had to say there, Fruit Loop?
I think that's it.
We will post the Bill Murray, Chad Daybell picture.
Yeah, I'll work on it.
Yeah, I'm going to wait till the podcast goes
Carl
up.
Spackler is his name. That's his name on there.
Yeah.
And the gopher, Yeah, classic movie.
Yes, and Fruit Loop is so right. Once you guys see it, you won't be able to unsee it.
Yep, exactly.
All right, you guys have a good weekend.
Yep, have a good weekend, and we'll hopefully drop another podcast soon.
Yep, have a good one, Wyatt.
Good night.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.